back this week in Missouri Politics. Braxton Payne with the Kelly Group. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Donna Behringer, former alderwoman in the city of St. Louis, now state rep. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Jim Murphy, the most quotable man in Missouri from South County, St. Louis. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you for having me.
And Mark Dalton with the Carpenters Union. Welcome back to the show.
Glad to be back.
Mark Dalton, you handicap these races as well as anybody I know, both parties. You can do a primary and a general. The fact of the matter is, with the governor and the first lady getting COVID, there's been a lot of criticism in St. Louis and Kansas City. They want people in Oregon County to wear a mask. They want to wear a mask right now. The governor took the criticism. He's got COVID. Probably a good day for the state auditor.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely.
No one's cheering for it, but still.
Right. It takes him, out of the game and a lot of the stuff he needs to do. So yeah, it definitely helps her out.
Braxton Page, from a political standpoint, I mean, when you're a Democrat, you essentially campaign. You hit St. Louis, Kansas City, you hit Columbia, Greene County. After that, it's not. A Democrat, to get their vote, doesn't really have to go to Ripley County. When you're a Republican, you have to hit all those counties. You have to. They expect to see you in person in Howell County and Holt County. Hard to do now if you've got COVID. Impossible to do. Plus the PR on it is going to take a hit from the Post and the Star.
Yeah, so one of the things, though, I think Nicole Galloway's doing a great job is she is hitting all those counties. She's going everywhere in the state of Missouri. She's not just saying, well, hey, I have to get Kansas City, I have to get Greene County, I have to get Boone County, I have to get St. Louis. She's going everywhere, and she's making the case. And she's also tying back the coronavirus to healthcare, and I think that's something that's very important. And as we see the first family infected by the coronavirus, which I don't think anybody wants to see, it is going to affect his campaign. Republicans have been campaigning door to door. They have been door knocking. Democrats not so much, doing contactless lit drops. So I think it's going to be important to see the difference in what 2 weeks can really do for the Galloway campaign.
What do? You talked about how this campaign's happening. I know a lot of Democrats, they'll just hold a sign out in front of your door or something like that. Republicans are knocking on doors, even in St. Louis. I mean, other parts of the state, I don't think they're as worried about it. The impact of this probably, although I'm sure she was never hoping for it, probably ends up being positive for her, right?
Well, the positive part is that in the primary in 2016, we had so many people register to vote. In this election, in the primary, the city of St. Louis had 11,000 people register to vote, and we had 40,000 people vote that didn't vote in 2016. So even though we're not going door to door, what we are is we're getting the people to the polls, and that's all that counts.
Do you think there's a fear, though, from her friend, the Galloway supporters at the Post and the Star, too much schadenfreude over this? I mean, a man is sick and his wife is sick. They're not holding their glee in very well. Do you think you have to worry a little bit about Nicole Galloway's probably best supporters, the ones at the Star and the Post, going too much?
I honestly believe no one thinks this is good, that this happened to the governor and his wife. This is actually horrible. But what it does show is that no one is not going to get this, as in you can get it no matter where you go in the state of Missouri. And so when she's out there in all those counties, and she is doing what she's doing social distancing, she's wearing a mask, so she's showing that the health care should come first, not the politics.
I don't know, Jim Murphy, the Galloway comms team at the Post and the Star, they seem a little bit less than crestfallen the governor got ill.
Well, it's unfortunate that COVID's become a political issue. It really shouldn't be. It should be a nonpartisan issue. We should all be fighting it, and equally so. As it turns out, the governor came down with it, and in the best environments, in hospitals where people wear all of the protective gear they can possibly can, we still have first responders and doctors and nurses coming down with this. It's a terrible disease that can affect anybody, and it's a shame that the governor, although and Teresa, I pray for them every night. To make a political issue out of this, I think will backfire.
Mark Dalton, politics is everything all the time. That's one thing I think Trump's made. But it's certainly everything all the time, 6 weeks before an election. Kids going back to school, I heard the Corona bros say, oh my God, this is going to be awful. Everyone in St. Louis should stay in their basement for 4, 5, 6 years. But people are going back to school, and the world's not ending. People are going back to the University of Missouri, and what they're finding is the kids are getting the disease and they don't even know it. The world's moving on. I mean, the doomsday predictions have not come true.
Yeah, so we're seeing some of that. I live out in Wentzville, and I know we've had some of our neighbors, their teachers have tested positive, so they were going in person 2 days a week, and now they're kicked back to virtual for a couple of weeks and kind of dealing with it. But yeah, I mean, the whole school, the virtual, the half in person, half virtual, that's a whole fiasco in itself.
I do think, though, there was a lot of folks that predicted major calamity would happen when kids went back to school. I think in most of the state, kids go back to school, and while there's still people getting this virus, it's going to exist, it's not been the awful scenarios that some predicted.
Yeah, well,
Well, it hasn't been doomsday, but you also seen most schools are doing hybrid models. So it's not every kid is going back to school all on the same day. So I think that's important. My fear is really for the rural community in Missouri and low income. They don't have access to broadband or internet or technology. Those kids are the ones getting left behind, and that no one is talking about at a state level or even sometimes at a local level. And I really fear that those kids are going to be affected not only this year and next year, but in 10 years when they're so far behind because of learning.
Donna Behringer, I mean, you look at the University of Missouri, what a great job they've done handling COVID. I mean, the results speak for themselves. But take a kid, when I was growing up, my dad worked, my mom worked. If I didn't go to school, if my grandma couldn't watch me, somebody take off work. You take off work enough, you don't have work to go to. I mean, it's fine in Chesterfield to just have the nanny watch the kids, but some people live in Charleston, and they don't have those access to those types of things.
There's people in St. Louis County where it's a single parent family, and the mother may, work at a dentist's office, and she gets paid by the time she's there. So if she has to stay home with her children because they can't go to school, what does she do? She can't collect a paycheck because she's not working. So we have people who are in certain situations where we need to figure out how to help, and that's why I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all on going to school. I really don't. And then I worry about the kids who have attention deficit disorder who can't sit in front of a computer because they just can't. It's that old adage of squirrels, and they can't pay attention. So those are the two things that I'm concerned about.
Jim Murphy, I mean, I've watched St. Louis. They're doing hybrid stuff in rural Missouri, and the Catholic schools, the archdiocese, they're just going to school, and if you show up late, you're tardy. That's their policy on COVID, and they're doing a lot of precautions. But I think it's coming down to, especially these private schools. If you don't have a COVID liability law, they're having to go way out of their way to try to keep from getting sued, and they probably get sued anyway. What is the state legislature at least discussing some sort of law that would help shield well-intentioned people with COVID?
Well, actually, the governor's been talking about doing a special on it, and we absolutely have to. My daughter is a teacher at Visitation Academy. I certainly don't want her sued by a student who gets COVID.
A ton of states around us have already done it.
Right, and it's time we bring kids back to school. One of the things with COVID is we talk about the science. And what I've pretty much determined is that we don't have medical science on this. We have medical theory because it changes every day. Every time I get a report, today the mask is a bad thing, don't put it on. Next day it's the best thing in the world. One day it's 6 feet, next day it's 10 feet. CDC says now, it might be airborne at greater distances, and then, never mind, we didn't mean to put that out. We've got to find a system that'll work, and the statistics tell us this, that kids under 18 just aren't dying from this. They're having it like the flu. And keeping kids out of school is detrimental to their development. It's denying them their childhood for a lot of cases. And I respect all the parents now that are complaining in St. Louis County over sports. Yesterday I sat and listened to the county council. There was 450 comments. They went on for 2 hours about how bad it is keeping their kids out of school. There's a new group, Let Them Play. In a week they have 13,000 members of their group on Facebook.
Donna Behringer, as a Cole County business owner, we're very proud that you have Cole County roots. You understand rural Missouri more than most folks I know that have the resume that you have. In St. Louis, Mayor Cruzen comes on, and she makes a mask order. She's elected by the people of the city of St. Louis to do those roles and to fill this in. In Cole County, there would be a health board that, frankly, in Butler County, I kind of know the health department exists, but I don't know who's on that board. No, they don't really vote on it. You don't even have, if it's not contested, it's not even on the ballot. Those folks are making decisions that are very controversial in a lot of the smaller counties, and they're not elected by anybody that would really, like a presiding commissioner, be elected. Do you think there may be a time now to change that law and say these decisions have to come from your elected commissioners?
Well, I have to tell you that putting the word COVID with politicians kind of bothers me, because COVID is a health issue, and I would like to hear from scientists versus hear what the politicians think. And so I know people are saying, the city, we shut down, we closed our businesses, we all, sheltered in place, and so our numbers, we flatlined, and we did what we were supposed to do. Now the areas that do not want to wear the masks and are keeping their business open, their numbers are spiking. So I think when you think about the masks, I kind of put it with smoking. Smoking impacted the health of the people around, not the actual smoker. So if you want to smoke at home, that's fine. But if you're going into an enclosed area where you know you're going to impact the health of the other people around you, you should be wearing a mask.
Mark Dalton in St. Charles County, Steve Ellen makes his decisions, right? Yep. You elect him, he makes a decision. You like it or not, you don't elect him.
Right.
In these rural counties, go over Warren County, it'll be some health board. Let's be honest, I'm sure there's a lot of good people on health boards. Most people didn't know who they were or what they did till right now. It seems like something that should be done by the top elected officials, not a kind of obscure board.
Well, yeah, but then you got to make sure your top elected officials are listening to the health professionals in the area, not doing what's popular for the partisan beliefs on the health issue.
Well, Jim Murphy, don't you just kick him out of office? They're not doing what you want?
Well, no. We shouldn't have unelected officials making decisions on people's livelihoods. Right now, you know, the idea of killing small business as a cure for coronavirus, I firmly disagree with. I think we need professionals to do it, but we need a consensus of it. Obviously, our professionals today can't even agree on that. When you have rural counties saying, let's be open, you have St. Louis County saying, let's be closed, despite, you know, Sam Page said when it reaches 40, the average number of hospitalizations a day, we have to put new restrictions on. Now it's down to 32, but they haven't come off. So now we're having a situation where nobody, you know, the goalpost keeps moving. We need to set a goal and say, when it reaches this level, this is what we'll do. And that has to be done across the board. You can't have one set of rules for this county and another one for the county next to it. So, yeah, we need to put some sense to this thing.
We've reached the end of our time here with a minute left. Mark Dalton, who won the week?
I think some of the parents in St. Louis County that are able to take their kids to youth sports now won the week.
Yeah, who won the week?
Tony Lake, the superintendent for Lindbergh Schools, he made a decision to let Lindbergh play football in Jefferson County.
They're taking their kids to play football in Jefferson County.
Absolutely.
Who won the week?
My new superhero, RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
What a life. What a life. What a week.
I would say Missouri State High School volleyball officials. I am one of them. I will be reffing in St. Louis County starting next week. I will be taking my precautions. I have an electronic whistle, so I will be wearing a mask the entire time. And I'm glad that the state outlined certain things that we should do and what we shouldn't do to keep officials safe.
I never ever see competitive volleyball at any level without thinking of Braxton Payne every time. Well, thank you all for being here. I'm going to say Tom Burcham, an attorney, former state legislator down in St. Francis County. Whatever you think of mask mandates, he's proof one guy gets involved, things can change. Now, instead of the cops giving you a ticket, I guess the health department will give you a ticket in St. Francis County. One guy getting involved, making a difference. I have a lot of regard for Tom Burcham. We hope you'll have some regard for us and see us next week here on This Week in Missouri Politics.
This Week in Missouri Politics, sponsored by the Missouri Association of Career Fire Protection Districts, Spire, and Sterling Bank.
Guys, thank you so much for watching this show. I want to tell you about a new thing we're offering. It's the Missouri Times Podcast Network. You'll get this show every week. If you want to listen to it in your car, you don't have time to watch it. You'll get our Show in Missouri podcast, History of Missouri, one county at a time. You'll also get our midweek update. Once a week, I throw up the Facebook Live. We talk politics, usually eat a lunch and discuss politics. You'll get to hear all those things come right to your phone. Subscribe to us on iTunes or Android. Missouri Times Podcast Network. Please join us and subscribe.